Welcome to the new podcast, A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike, hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Pace, with retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet Billy O'Connor.
Retired Lieutenant O'Connor, how are you, my friend?
Retired, good and retired. I'm good, pal. How you doing? You're not feeling too hot, huh? You got a cold?
You'll never know it. I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer.
The show must go on.
I'll die after this, but I'm a gamer. Hey, who's our guest today?
Who's our guest today? Bubba.
Burton Bubba Gilliam.
Bubba Gilliam. And you know, if you hear the name Burton Bubba Gilliam,
you don't know who it is.
It doesn't. Nothing flashes. But as soon as you see that face,
look at that face.
It's iconic. It's absolutely iconic.
Yep, he'll be a great guest. He'll come up in about 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's really it's going to be a lot of fun interviewing him.
Yep.
Because I guess Blazing Saddles is one of the funniest movies ever made.
It was for me.
Me too.
I don't know about for Derek. But nope.
No. Oh yeah, I guess a different perspective.
Our third man in the booth.
Hello, everybody.
Derek Harris.
That's that perspective. Yeah.
So Billy,
I heard the Warner Brothers execs didn't like the movie though when it was first shot. They thought it was going to be a dud. They almost didn't put it out.
Yeah, they were going to put it out.
Yeah, I guess the money that they put into it.
They were going to put it out. But before we go into that Blazing Saddles, of course, we'll talk about that with Bubba. What do you think about Caitlyn Jenner announcing for governor?
Is she really running for governor? I didn't even see it.
Well, good for you. You said she. You're not as ignorant as I thought.
I bet he doesn't know who she is.
Caitlyn Jenner?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Bruce, isn't it?
Oh, man, look at that. All right.
I remember him. Are you kidding me, man? I remember him on the cover of Wheaties after he won a decathlon. I mean, that was remarkable. He shot at every bloody record there was.
1976.
Yeah, cover of Wheaties. They're not putting him on the cover of Wheaties anymore, I don't think.
I think I saw that GIF. GIF or GIF?
GIF.
GIF. I think I saw that GIF with Howard Cosell, O.J. Simpson, and Bruce Jenner, and said, "What would Howard think?" or something along the lines.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I saw that too.
We'll have to look for that, Derek.
Basically, what he said, I just looked 20 years into the future. Yeah. You're not going to believe what I saw. He's with OJ and Bruce.
And Bruce Jenner.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah,
that cracks me up.
But then, so she's running for.
She's running for governor.
You think she's got a shot?
No, I don't think she's got a shot. Her webpage had no policies, anything, no policy stance, no procedure stance, but a place to shop and make donations. So I think it's going to be another huge money grab.
You guys have heard me talk about my buddy Blinky in the Bronx, right? Well, Blinky's son, Michael, he's running against OAC in the Bronx. He's running against Ocasio.
Yeah.
I don't.
He's got no chance.
No chance.
He's got zero chance.
No, he's a Republican. He's running as a Republican, and of course, Blinky's my best friend. And he says, "Did you donate money to OAC?" I said, "Not yet." But yeah, he's running against OAC. Man.
Speaking of running, I believe that Lucy Lang's race for Manhattan District Attorney is going to be coming up soon. So
I saw that on Don Scardino's Facebook page.
Well, Stephen Lang's Facebook page.
Yeah, of course, but Don had put up the benefit that you sent me. Yeah, which was pretty cool. Him reading from A Few Good Men.
Lucy's got a shot.
Yeah,
Lucy's got a real shot of replacing Cyrus Vance as the Manhattan District Attorney.
Now, Cyrus Vance, that's got to be the son of Cyrus Vance from Carter?
It's got to be the son of Cyrus Vance Sr., yes. Cyrus Vance Jr.
Wasn't there a big scandal with Cyrus Vance in the banking industry under the Carter administration?
Not Jr.
Not Jr., but the old man.
I don't know. You're the history. You're the history
I
buff.
think there was a little thing, a little bit of scandal. Was he dead? A little bit. Is she pregnant? A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think there was a little bit of scandal going on there. There was a money issue there with Cyrus Vance.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, there was.
But if you're a New Yorker, get out and vote for Lucy Lang. She'll be a hell of a DA.
Yeah,
a hell of a DA.
Yeah, she seems really committed and dedicated. That's what it takes.
Speaking of committed,
you're gonna have me locked up, you hump?
No. Congress. There was another great vote in Congress. There was a 94-1 vote in the Senate. The anti-hate crime bill was approved by Senate 94-1. Guess which was the senator that voted against it?
Josh Hawley.
Yep.
Yeah, how did I know? Huh? Josh Hawley.
I mean, can you believe that? This guy is he's so desperate to have us talking about him and to have people writing him about him and to be in the news that he votes against a crime bill just so he can be the one.
That's pretty much what Congress has become. They don't accomplish anything. I mean, I don't understand how somebody could work 2 days a week, pretty much 3 days a week maybe, and all they do is raise money. It's just about how much money they can raise, because we don't really have elections anymore in this country. We have auctions.
Right.
How much money can you gather? How much money can you get? And unfortunately, well, look at when Obama was making his State of the Union address, and the guy from Georgia stood up and called him a liar.
Yeah.
His fundraising
went through the roof.
Tripled. And it's the same thing. The more controversial you are, the more you can appeal to,
right?
People of the earth,
farmers,
Americans.
morons.
I mean,
just kidding.
I mean, it's just. I'm kidding. Yeah, of course. But I mean, it's become. I mean, they're anti-science. I mean, they really are. I mean, it's
the flat earthers.
Yeah, the flat earthers. I don't.
Well, speaking of controversy, the LA Times published a list of Prince's all-time singles.
Oh,
and they ranked number 1, "If I Was Your Girlfriend," and I'm sure Derek Harris will have some opinions on that.
That's the most ridiculous song to put at number 1. The person who wrote this article obviously is more a fan of pop culture than of Prince. And as a musician, I don't think he really understood the value that Prince offered to music. So if I Was Your Girlfriend was a cool song, and it definitely was innovative, but it's certainly not the best song he's ever made.
I didn't even like it.
You didn't like it?
No.
Yeah. I don't think I've even heard it.
It's. Well, I wish we could play it.
Is it about transgender? Is it If I Were Your Girlfriend? Is it
no?
Is it controversial? Is it?
Yeah.
It's about what intimacies women share outside of their heteronormative framework that most pop songs serve to reinforce.
I have no idea what you just said.
Well, the way I said it, I don't think you can make out even what I did say.
You must be talking Latin. I have no idea what you said.
Heteronormative framework that
I don't even want to go down that road. Heteronormative.
Unmale gazy way that Prince moves through the.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that moves through the question. So, what do you think is Prince's number 1 song?
That's a really hard question.
It's got to be Purple Rain, no?
But Purple Rain, I think, is probably number 1. And even When Doves Cry is probably at least number 2, just for arrangement, the type, the uniqueness of the song, and also how it captured America and the world. If I Were Your Girlfriend it sort of did that, but in a different way. You know what I mean? That song didn't really touch the passionate part of people, but When Doves Cry did. And so did Purple Rain. You know what I mean?
I like You Got the Look. You got the look.
You know what? Instead
I
of us
just don't
playing
see you sitting around listening to Prince, Frank. I don't know.
I do.
Yeah?
Yep.
My favorite song is actually "Adore," which wasn't even on the list.
Wow.
So that tells you. And I would bet that at least most Prince fans would have that in the top 100 list.
Did you ever see that video where he comes out? He's a Tom Petty, and there's about 6 other Eric Clapton, and about 6 other people.
My guitars gently weep.
And he comes out and he just does a guitar lick and just throws the thing down and like that, done, drop the mic, walks off. I was blown away by that. I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
That guy could play like,
Well, he could play like every instrument.
Yeah, like, and really, really incredibly. I mean, I said, wow, look at this.
Yeah, I sort of feel bad that I missed the whole Prince wave.
That era, that's not our era.
Well, it's not our era, but it's within the era that we're all so
racist.
No, self-possessed. We're so focused on making it in our career.
Oh,
if I was a teenager like you, I would have gotten it. And he was like Michael Jackson was to me, Prince was to you. I mean, I really like Rock and Roll Love Affair. I mean, even though it wasn't one of his greater songs, it just, it showed how committed he was to the music genre and how well-rounded he was. It was really...
Well, I mean, obviously the guy's got enormous talent, but again, every form of art, I don't care if it's music, painting, books, it's all subjective, like...
Oh, of course.
Comedy, subjective, some people love some comics, like Picasso. I don't get Picasso. I don't get him. You put 10 Picassos on these walls over here, and I'll say, it looks like somebody vomited on it. I don't get it. But that don't mean he can't paint. I just don't get it.
Well, I don't get Andy Warhol.
Yeah. You see one soup can, you see them all. Yeah. Well, what do you think about that?
I disagree slightly. I think you're right about things being subjective. I mean, that's a given for everything in our lives. But there's a theory that well, first of all, I think Eric Weinstein talked about this a little bit. That there are certain notes that sort of you can find in every culture in history, and so they resonate with human beings in general. So the idea that it's just subjective is probably not true because you find those notes throughout history.
Now, be more specific. What do you mean by notes exactly? You're talking about. You're not talking about musical notes. You're talking about.
Yeah, musical notes. So let's just think about it for a second. If we play a note that's off key, right? Everybody in this room will be able to feel that note is off key, right? And so it doesn't make you feel.
We call them Billy notes because Billy's a little off key himself.
Off tilt.
So I just think that there are, marketing helps people love things or like them.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Like marketing does. But that's one thing with music. But then talk about comedy or talk about writing. Talk about books. Some people like certain books. Some people read one chapter and say, throw it away. I mean, it's just subjective.
I'm with Billy. I think everything's subjective. You either like it or you don't like it.
You see everything through you. And matter of fact, the old line that says, perception is reality. Your perception is reality. Well, we have a tendency to look at things through our own prisms. The Glass Menagerie. You read the Glass Menagerie, the play, and the whole purpose of the play is they're telling you that everybody's perspective is different. You see things.
Yeah, but reality is reality also.
Yeah, but perception is reality. You could take, like Derek said, you take enough advertising, enough thing, and make something big enough, and people say, oh, that's good.
9/11 was reality.
How about the pet rock? If you could sell the pet rock to people, sell 40 million pet rocks, I mean, that's marketing. That's,
If you can sell water in a bottle.
Yeah, bottle. I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard of, bottled water. Well, my economic prescience, it's earned me the nickname, the American Nostradamus, I said, non-alcoholic beer, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard about. That'll never sell. Bottled water, who's going to buy bottled water?
Yeah.
Ridiculous,
Well, that's a setup for something else, but we can talk about that on another show.
So let's get Bubba on the line
Will do.
and get on with it.
Yeah, let's talk to Bubba. I can't for our audience out there, when they see the face,
They'll know it.
they'll know it.
Well, they've already seen the face, so.
All right, guys. We got the man Bubba in.
Where is he? There he is.
There he is. There he is himself.
How you doing, my friend?
Oh boy, don't I look good?
You look sexy.
The Burton has landed. Look at that. Ooh. I could be a movie star.
You could be.
How you doing, Bubba? My name is Billy O'Connor. That's man Derek Harris. You already know Frank, of course. Pleasure to meet you, pal. A pleasure to meet you.
You know what? I've been telling everybody for months that I'm 81 years old. I'm not 81. I'm 82. I just figured it out last night.
Maybe you were sick of you.
So, Bubba, why don't you tell the people what you did last night
Oh my God.
at midnight?
We were supposed, this thing is starting right now. It's noon my time in Dallas, Texas. And I went to bed. I normally don't go to bed till about 1 o'clock in the morning, but I went to bed about really 9:30. And at 20 minutes till 12, I woke up and I looked at my clock and I said, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be do the Zoom thing at 12. I got up and boy, I was running around doing all kinds of stuff and getting everything. And it really took, my wife finally woke up and she said, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm trying to get onto this Zoom thing and it's not working. She said, that's not till tomorrow. She said, it's midnight. And I never looked out to see if the sun was shining. Oh, golly.
That's pretty funny. We got so much to talk to you about, Bubba. You and Billy have got so much in common. You and I have got so much in common.
Oh, boy.
Why don't you start with your fire department days? You were on the fire department, Dallas Fire Department. Wait, before we do that, is your heritage Irish?
My wife?
Is your heritage Irish?
Yes. And some Dutch and English.
Because I noticed in 2018 you were head of the...
There he is. Hey, Dallas firefighters, New York firefighters.
Yeah.
My man, how long were you on the job?
Hello, what?
How long were you on the job?
14 years.
14 years.
A little more than 14 years, yeah. And when I left, oh boy, everybody said, you're crazy, man. What are you doing? I probably was a little crazy.
Why did you leave? You got a call from somebody, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd done a little picture called Paper Moon, and I wasn't an actor. It was the first thing I'd ever done. I'd never been in a grade school play. And I had a great part in this picture called Paper Moon, which was huge, as you know. And then went back to the fire station, and about 3 months later, I got a phone call, and at the fire station in the Dallas Fire Department, you answer the phone. Fire station number 39, Gilliam speaking, and this guy says, hi, my name is Mel Brooks. I'm a writer, director, producer, actor, and I'm getting ready to do a big picture called Blazing Saddles. And I said, thank you, Mr. Brooks. Boom. I knew it was another fireman putting me on because they had been doing it for 3 months. Of course, Paper Moon had not been released, but they were giving me a bad time. But he called back. And you know what? If he hadn't have called back, I would now be a long retired fireman living down in East Texas, and I'd have a couple of cows. That's what firemen do.
So, yeah, you thought the other firemen were breaking your chops, of course, because that's what firemen do, right? I mean, that's all we do is break each other's balls.
Exactly. That's what hey, we have to do that or we'll go crazy.
We'll go crazy. But tell me, how did Paper Moon, How did that come about when you got that first role in Paper Moon, when you got the pencil thin mustache and you look like you
Boston Blackie style.
yeah, Boston Blackie style. Yeah, how did it come about if you didn't have an acting
I always
background?
say it's my Clark Gable. I like I say, never been in a grade school play, but I saw this article in the Dallas paper, Dallas Times Herald, that said some big director by the name of Peter Bogdanovich was coming to Dallas, and he was going to audition people to be extras in a picture called Paper Moon. And I'd never been in anything, but I thought, well, and it said Ryan O'Neal was the star of the show, and I thought, well, I might get to see Ryan O'Neal. I went down to this hotel and finally found a parking space, went in, and there was a gang of people there. The paper the next day said that 450 people showed up. And I put my name on some kind of list and sat down and talked to a bunch of people for 2.5 hours. And finally, they call my name, and I go in, and a kid by the name of Gary Chasen, thank you, Gary Chasen, from Houston, was the casting director. And he said, I like your looks. Sit down here and let me talk to you for a minute. And he says, how long have you been working extra? I said, I don't know anything about working. He said, this is it. This is working extra. I said, I've never done this before. I've never been in a grade school play. He said, well, I like your looks. He said, and we're giving away some one-liners in the picture. He said, read this one line for me. And he gave me what the setup was. And it was, make him say calf rope, Leroy. Leroy is getting ready to have a fight with Ryan O'Neal over trading of an old beat up pickup for a brand new car. Ryan is trying to get away from the sheriff. And Randy Quaid finally did that part in the picture. He was on screen about 15 seconds. And I read it, and he said, well, that sounds pretty good. We might like to have you come back in a couple of weeks because Peter is going to be here. So a couple weeks later, boom, my phone rings. I go back in and see him. There's nobody in this big place then. They'd already weeded everybody out. And there were about 10 people in this room. I walk in, and I did recognize the girl that was sitting right there rubbing Peter Bogdanovich's feet. And that was Sybil Shepherd. That was when, and I had just seen it. I didn't know who Sybil Shepherd was until about 4 or 5 days before that when Last Picture Show.
Yeah, Last Picture Show. So, and I must say, Sybil loved me and still does. Peter's laying in a chaise lounge, and he's got on a white coat and a red ascot, and his shoes are off. She's rubbing his feet. He's laying back, and he says, "Well, what part are you here for?" I said, "I don't know." And he's here for the part of the brother who's having the fight. He says, "Okay, say what you got to say." I said, "Make him say calf rope, Leroy." And Peter did this. He set up and he did this number. He said, "You think you can do the part of Floyd the desk clerk?" I said, "Yes, sir. Sure can." I don't know who Floyd the desk clerk is. I just knew the answer to the question. I made 100 on that exam. Yeah,
you sure did. And you were great. You were great.
He looked through this script. And he said, "Well, look, there's 4 scenes here, big, great scenes for this character. I want you to go outside the room in this ante room here and read over Floyd the desk clerk." So I did. I go and look over the thing. And about 20 minutes later, Sybil pops her head in and she says, "Are you ready to read?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I think I am." And she said, "Well, I'm going to read with you. I'll read the other part. You read Floyd the desk clerk." Okay. So we go back in. Peter says, "Now I want you to walk around the room and carry your script. turn off the lights, raise the shades, move the chairs, move the fur, do anything you want to do. I just want to see how you walk, talk, move. I said, okay. And I said, but do I have to carry this script with me? He said, well, you got to know the lines. And I said, oh, I just saw them. I know the lines. He said, you can do all 4 scenes. I said, yeah, I think so. And I did. And there were about 10 people in there. The writer, a guy named Sargent, and other producers and writers and what all, And matter of fact, Frank Marshall was what they called an associate producer.
Yep.
Frank Marshall back then was a gopher. That's just what he did,
Steven Spielberg's partner.
Frank Marshall hit.
Really?
And he hit it big. So anyway, every time Floyd would say a word, people would laugh. I mean, they just laugh because Floyd doesn't know it, but he's funny.
So when you playing him, tell me whose idea was the pencil mustache, the Boyce the Bracky look? Was that Bogdanovich or was that you?
No. After I finished reading that day for them, and they called me about 10 days later and told me that Peter really wanted me to do the picture. They wanted to take me to St. Joseph, Missouri for a week. And I said, okay, do I get paid? Yeah, you get paid scale for a week. I said, okay. And what'd you ask me?
I asked you, whose idea was it, the mustache? Was that?
Yes, that's exactly right. That was Peter's.
Uh-huh.
After they had told me they wanted me to do the part, well, Peter called me and said, I'd like for you to grow a little Clark Gable mustache. And I said, and at that time, I was 33 years old, but I still didn't shave every day. And I said, well, I don't even know if I can grow a mustache, but I said, I'll try. And so I just grew a bunch of hair up here. And 3 weeks from then is when they hauled me off to St. Joseph, Missouri. And when I got there, well, I did the wardrobe thing. Then I go to makeup and they trimmed that little thing down. Ooh, boy.
Yeah, really slimy look. It was perfect for what you were doing.
If there was a sleazy looking character,
there was.
it.
So
You never know.
3 months later, you get a call from Mel Brooks. And did Mel offer you the part outright, or did you have to come out and read? Wow.
When he called back, he said, listen, my name really is Mel Brooks. I do all this stuff, and I'm getting ready to do a picture, and I want you to be one of my stars. I saw he had seen a rough cut of Paper Moon the night before, and he said, I want you to do this part. I said, well, I can't. I don't have any more vacation time. And so I said, I just can't do it. He said, oh, come on, listen, you just come out and talk to me, would you? And I said, oh, you going to pay for me to go out? He said, first class. So
had you ever flown first class before?
No, I didn't know what first class was. I'd only been on an airplane probably 2 or 3 times then, And I go in to see Peter Bogdanovich at Warner Brothers, and
Mel Brooks.
Who does that? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I'm glad I got somebody helping me here. I go in and see Mel, and there were 12 people behind this big long conference table and one chair right out in front. Well, as soon as I open the door and I go in, Mel Brooks, who I never had any idea what he looked like, he was the guy in the middle. He jumped up over the desk and ran over and jumped in my arms and pinned me against the wall. He said, guys, this is the one we want right here.
Wow.
And so I knew that must be Mel Brooks anyway. He introduced me to everybody, and I didn't recognize anybody in that room except the guy that was sitting right next to Mel, black guy. And so after we talked a few minutes, Mel pitches me a script, said, take this back to the hotel and read it and come back and talk to me tomorrow. I went back the next day and saw Mel by himself. And I said, but, I really can't do this because there's nothing in here. And they're running at that time. I was a cowboy, came riding in town, hollered a couple of things, shot at a couple of people. Then I was gone. I did that 3 or 4 times. And I said, I just can't do it. And he said, well, that's what we got. I went back, got on the airplane, went back to Dallas. And about 4 or 5 days later at home, I got a phone call from this guy. And I said, hello. And he says, hey, man, this is Richard. I said,
Wow.
Richard who? He said, Richard Pryor, man. And every time I tell that story, and I've only told it about 3 or 4 million.
Now, was that the black guy standing next to Mel Brooks that you recognized when you were in the room? Was Pryor?
That was the one I recognized.
Wow.
Yeah, I recognized him. And he said, listen, man, we want you to do this part. So we rewrote your part last night, and we want you to open the picture. We want you to tell how crazy it's going to be, not where it's going, but it's going to be a wild ride. And so we rewrote it. Want you to come back and talk to us again. I said, paying for me to come back again?
First class.
I get on that airplane, go back and see them again, talk to both of them. They give me another script. I take it to the hotel, go back the next morning and see them. And I said, well, and then it was really, really a good part. And I said, well, but I don't have any more vacation time coming. I cannot take a leave of absence. There is no such in the Dallas Fire Department. I would have to quit. And they said, listen, we can come up with the money. Go around and see the casting department. That's their job. And as you guys know, that may be their job, but they could be overridden real quick.
Really quickly.
But I went around and I talked to Nessa Hines, who became one of the presidents over Universal, the president of Universal. And she kept telling me that there's really no money in this part. That's the extent of the conversation. There's no money in this part. I said, adios. I got up.
Yeah, you had a big decision.
Well, I went back, got on an airplane, and came back to Dallas. The next day, I got a phone call from Mel. He said, what happened? I said, I don't have any money. How much money did she offer you? I said, well, she didn't offer me anything. She just said, we don't have any money. And as you know, hey, Frank, that's the way you guys operate. We don't have any money.
Yeah.
So
until you ask for it.
And he could have said, how much do you want? But I don't know what I would have said. And I said, well, I don't know. He said, I want you to come back and talk to me. He said, when can you come back? I said, well, I've already taken off from the fire station here twice. So I'm making a long story out of this. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I left, and we decided I'd come back in 3 or 4 days, and he set it all up. I go back to see him, sit down in front of him, and we talked for a minute. He said, well, how much is it going to take to get you to do this part? Here, I'm a fireman. I don't know anything about acting. And he said, and I said, well, at the fire department, now I know I impressed him with this. I said, this is 1973, February of 1973. I said, I make $12,000 a year. I know it impressed him a lot.
He said, I'm going to get this GI cheap.
Yeah. So I said, and I can't quit the fire department for any less than I'm making in a whole year, $12,000. He said, well, we're going to give you 3 weeks on the picture, $4,000. That's okay. That was something I wasn't ready for that. And he said, well, we're still 3 weeks away from shooting a foot of film, and said, we'll be in contact with you. And I walked out of there, I was in a daze, man. And then, of course, when I got back to the fire department, my father had just passed away. He was a fireman of 30 years. My brother had been in the fire department for a long time, and I knew all the Dallas chiefs, the chiefs of the department, everybody. And man, I got phone calls from the chief and everybody else. Don't quit the fire department. Your daddy wouldn't like this, and you might not ever get another job. And but I just had the assurance of a number of people. Peter Bogdanovich had already called me, and he knew that Mel was after me, and he said, "You can do this. You can do it. No problem. You can do it." So I took their word for it. Put the fire department, went out there, and did the picture, and had the most wonderful time of my life, and stayed for 23 years.
That's fantastic. And it takes a lot of guts to walk away from a pension and from your health care and everything else, and especially with the tradition in your family, with the fire department being the whole tradition.
You know what? I must tell you, the good Lord makes things happen for us. I was going through a divorce, just started going through a divorce, and that made it pretty doggone easy for me to say, I'm going to start a new life. Yeah. I'm going to Hollywood, be an actor. And if it hadn't have been for that, it wouldn't have happened. But it was a perfect timing.
Fate.
I believe you were.
Amen.
Did you have some reluctance in taking the role? Because I know you were uncomfortable with the racist. You were a pretty big racist in the movie. Yeah. And you were uncomfortable with that, and I believe you apologized to Cleavon Little because you said, "Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?"
Black Mark, after we had been doing that scene for, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, he said, "Come on, walk out on the." We were out on the. He said, "Let's walk out here and talk."
Cleavon said this.
He said, "Listen, I know you're having a little bit of trouble calling me what you're calling me." And I said, "Yeah, of course, I'm from Dallas, Texas. I've heard that word ever since all my life. But to say it to another person is something else." He said, "Do not worry about this. That's the written page right there. You didn't write it. Whatever you say is acting." He said, if you want to go beyond that, you say whatever you want to. You call me anything you want to. But after they say cut, if you call me that, we're going to have some trouble.
He didn't know you were a fighter, though, that you had as many fights as you had. I was shocked.
He was carrying a big stick.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little about the fart scene around the campfire and how that came about?
Oh, wow. That was in the second week. And I had gotten a little bit comfortable with everybody, and everybody was so nice to me. All the actors, all the technical people, everybody knew that I was brand new, handpicked by Mel, and they wanted to make sure that I was comfortable, and I was. And that morning, Mel Brooks knocked. We were out on the desert, and he knocked on my trailer door and opened it. He said, I said, "Come on in." He came and he said, "Listen, I'm going to make you famous today." "How's that?" He said, "Well, you know what we're doing." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's never been done on camera by an actor in a movie or television." I said, "Really?" He said, "So I'm making you famous today." And of course, I really can go anywhere, and people say, "You were Blazing Saddles. Were you that guy that farted?" Of course, there were a whole bunch of us in the scene, but I was the
first. Yeah, that's the first filming of a fart in history. That's remarkable.
How'd you like working with my friend Gene Wilder?
As you know, Gene was the most wonderful guy. Gene was not, as you know, Gene wasn't funny.
He was
Gene-
not funny at all.
Not at all. He was a very serious guy. But when he took those words off that page, something happened to him, boy. And he became that character, whatever character it was he was playing, and he delivered lines that nobody else could make as near funny as he did. He was so much help to me. He would say, he'd drop by my dressing room and he'd say, listen, you just have a good time out there today. Say it like you want to say it, and do it like you want to do it, and move like you want to move. And he said, Mel knows you can do this. Don't be. I mean, he gave this little speech to me a lot of days.
He basically said to you, "Don't try to act.
Don't what?
Don't try to act."
That's right. Don't try to act. Oh, everybody told me. They said, we know you. Everybody knew that I didn't have background in acting. They said, don't try to start acting now. Now,
wow, that's terrific.
Yeah.
So I didn't. It's time to change hats, guys.
All right.
I got my hair.
Yeah, you still got your hair. You know, Gene never went on a talk show. You never saw Gene on Merv, or you never saw Gene on Johnny, because he said it wasn't funny. I know that I will go on a talk show and I would just bomb because I'm not funny. And he knew that about himself, and he was self-assured in that. That's why you never saw him on any show, because he said, I can't tell stories, but I can act.
Yeah, boy, he sure could too. I mean, you'd like Bubba said. I mean, he was terrific in that film.
He was absolutely.
And didn't they originally cast Gig Young in that part?
Yes, but Gig, and most people don't know this, but Gig was not even the first choice. But he lasted a couple of days
before his drinking got to him. Before his drinking got to him, I'm sure.
What's the guy? Dan Daly.
Dan Daly.
Dan Daly. He was the first
he
choice.
lasted about 2 days too. And boy, I wanted to. I grew up on Dan Daly.
Now, was it Mel Brooks that makes that change? He just decides I got the wrong guy here, and he just.
Well, you know what I think. I really do think, and Mel would never did admit this, and we've talked about it before. But I think he hired Dan Daly, knowing that Dan Daly was going to get, going to do it, and so after a couple of days of him being drunk as a skunk, they got rid of him. Then
they put in a bigger alky.
A day or two later, here comes Gig Young. Now, and Gig Young, he was known for that too. He lasted a couple of days, and then it took about a week to get
Gene
loose from something. I don't know. And of course, they brought him on in then. And I really think that Mel knew exactly what he was doing, and hired two guys that he knew he'd have to pay them, a few $1,000s, but then it was worth it to him to stall everything and
he did it deliberately to stall so he could get Wilder. He knew Wilder. Oh, interesting.
And Gene,
I
think Blazing Saddles was Gene's second movie. It came out first, but I think it was Gene's first movie was Bonnie and Clyde. So that maybe what Mel was trying to get him out of. Wait until he wrapped Bonnie and Clyde, then he could bring him in for Blazing Saddles.
Maybe that's true. Could be. Well,
did you know when you were making Blazing Saddles that it was going to be iconic? Did you know that you were making?
No, and nobody else did either. Of course, I didn't have a track record. I didn't know how to even think about, is this going to be good, bad, or ugly? But nobody said anything about it being an iconic movie or anything like that. It was to them. Everybody else, technical people, actors, it was just another job to them.
Yeah.
They thought it was kind of funny, but they never had any high hopes of it just going crazy. And it was only released in 18 theaters nationwide. 18 theaters, but those 18 theaters busted out.
Wow.
And boy, they within about 10 days, boom! All of a sudden, it was all over the country. Back then they did, they didn't do what we did called four-walling. It would sit in one theater, and it was in Los Angeles. It was at the Avco Embassy for 14 months by itself. No other pictures there, just Blazing Saddles.
The execs didn't have a lot of confidence in the movie. They didn't release it nationwide or anything. They didn't think it was going to be a blockbuster for sure.
After that first 18 theaters, I think they had that idea.
Yeah, they knew. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew it was going to be big.
And that
and it
cast,
was the top grossing picture of the year.
and that cast was incredible. Harvey Korman, Cloris Leachman. Was it Cloris Leachman?
Man, Harvey was so great to me, and he and I played golf all over the country together. About 10 years after I went to Hollywood. Well, I started playing golf, and he called me and said, "Hey, there's golf tournaments everywhere. Let's go to some of them." So we went to a lot of golf tournaments.
And who played Lily Von Stupp?
That was Madeline
Kahn. Yeah.
And now there's another story for you. She had already been on the picture about 3 weeks when I went on paper. Going back to Paper Moon now. She worked about a month on the picture. And she finished on a Friday night, and I was finishing on Saturday night. And she had to get back to New York that night. So she took a red-eye flight from St. Joseph, Missouri, or from Kansas City back to New York. And we were staying at this same hotel, great big hotel in St. Joseph, Missouri, big wide halls. And she came across, she knocked on my door, and I opened the door, and there she is. And a guy was there with her bags, and she was getting ready to go to the airport about 8 o'clock at night. And she said, "I just want to tell you how wonderful it was to work with you. I had the best time," and and all this stuff. And she gave me a big hug, and she turned around and walked out of the door, and I followed her to the door. And she started down the hallway, and she stopped. And she looked back and she said, "I know things that a lot of people don't know." She said it just like that. And she said, she was kind of a belated flower child or something, And she says, "I know a lot of things that people don't know, and you and I are going to work to get together again one of these days." I said, "Well, I'm going back to the fire station." And she said, "Well, I don't care. You and I work together one of these days. I'm looking forward to it." I said, "Okay." She left. And then, of course, 3 or 4 months later, we're doing Blazing Saddles together. I went out 3 times to make a deal on the picture. And then Mel called me the next week and said, "Why don't you come back again? We're having all of our cast." And as you know, it was an ensemble cast of 8 people or so.
Was that for the premiere of the movie?
Yes.
Premiere of the movie.
Was it what?
Was that for the premiere of the movie?
Yeah. Oh no, this was before the picture was we even shot a foot of film.
Oh, okay.
A week after Mel and I had made our deal, and so I go back, and he said, "I want us all to just read the script together and get familiar with it a little, and we'll have some lunch. You can get on a plane and go back to Dallas." I said, "Okay." So, and I was not smart enough. I didn't say, "Who's in this picture?" I didn't know any questions to ask.
You only cared that Burton Gilliam was in the picture.
I walked in this room, and there were 2 people in there, one at one end and one at the other. Mel was at one end, and Madeline was at the other. I opened the door and looked in, and she said, "I told you."
Wow.
Golly.
Well, yeah.
She didn't have anything to do with
Fate
it.
again. Fate
Yep.
knocked on your door again, pal. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
You never know.
Why don't you guys talk about some fire stories?
All right. Well, now, Billy, how many years? You're still involved. Well, how many years?
Well, I did my 20. I got out right before 9/11. I got out. I
Did you?
retired about 2 months before 9/11. But I went up there and worked on the dig. But you did
Really?
14 years. You did.
Yeah, I had 14 years,
And
and
did
you
you-
had 20. But were you in the New York department?
Yeah. I was working the Bronx and Harlem usually.
Wow.
Yeah. I went up there to work on the dig after I retired because, of course, I knew, so many guys that I think I lost.
You did.
We lost 343 guys, but I think I knew about 11 of them. And I would have known a lot more, but we lost. What people don't know about 9/11 is we lost the cream of the crop. We lost a lot of young kids
Really?
because they were just coming out of the classes, and they were, they were the guys that were at the top of the list, the guys that got hired first because they were at the top of the list. And of course, a lot of brain power, a lot of deputy chiefs, a lot of chief of the department got decapitated. We lost a lot of, and I knew maybe 11 people. I would have known more, except they were mostly young kids. Most of the guys that I knew were officers. They were lieutenants, captains, guys I had worked with, But I don't want to leave the fire department because it was my life, and of course a lot to do with your life and the nepotism involved between your father and that's why you knew all the chiefs and everything because
Actually,
of the whole
now,
history.
Now there have been 11 in my family.
Wow.
Brothers, brother-in-laws, son-in-laws, cousins, nephews. There are now 11. We just had one of my nephews just went on the Garland, Texas Fire Department. So there's a bunch of us.
Yeah, that's terrific. So did you guys, when you were in Dallas, you did mostly structural fires, or you had like
we had. I never. The biggest fire I was ever at was probably a 3-alarmer, and they go to 5.
Mhm.
But I just didn't. I was always in a station that we would average 1 run a day, and this was, of course, before all the paramedics and ambulances and all that came into play. I left just as that was going on. Now, in the Dallas Fire Department, gosh, it's 11 to 15 to 18 runs a day.
Yeah, sure.
It's a whole different fire.
And they do a lot of EMS runs now too, right? There's a lot of medical
That's right,
runs
yeah.
more than anything else.
And we had a lot of grass fires, a ton of grass fires.
We used to call them 3 broomers. Somebody in Staten Island would say, I went to a job the other day. Say, oh, Staten Island, would you have a 3 broomer?
If you had a grass fire, somebody set fire to Central Park. Or
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So tell me, I want to touch on something else. I was astonished the amount of fights that you had as a boxer. I mean, what weight did you fight at?
I was a welterweight, 6'1", 147 pounds,
And 217 fights.
Wow.
That's a lot of fights.
And he won 201 of them.
Boy, you know my record, yeah.
I do know your
And I had
record.
about 100, I think 119 knockouts. I was fast and could hit real hard. I beat 2 guys who went on and won the world championship. I'm not talking about amateurs. I'm talking about the world professional championship.
Who'd you beat?
I beat Curtis Coates and a kid by the name of Armstrong. He was a lightweight and he moved up to welterweight as an amateur. And
I remember Curtis Coates for sure.
I knocked both of them out.
Wow.
Wow.
And I think Armstrong, I know he went back to lightweight.
Who was your inspiration? Who did you model yourself after when you were fighting?
My brother had fought in the Golden Gloves when I was 16. He was 17, and he won a couple of fights, and I went to watch him fight, and at that time the crowds in Dallas were like 2,500, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know? But I told him, I said, I think I might like to do that next year. He said, oh no, you get hurt. You get hurt. I weighed about 125 pounds then, but all of a sudden I went through one of these growth spurts, and I went up to about 145 pounds, and I did enter the Golden Gloves, and I won 4 fights, and then I lost the decision. Always wanted to fight that guy again, but I never got to. Then I was fighting as what they called a novice. Anybody was
Sub-novice, right?
5 fights, they fought as a novice. But I said, shoot, I think I can beat these guys that are fighting in the open class. And as soon as I turned open, I won about 28 fights in a row.
Man, that's remarkable. I mean, you had did you turn pro? I mean,
No, and I had so many opportunities. One of the guys that I knocked out, who became the professional world champion, Curtis Cokes, the people that ran his, were his managers, wanted me to turn pro, and I went down and worked out a couple of times for about 3 months, getting ready to turn pro. But at that time, I was married to a little girl who didn't want me to fight. She didn't want me to make $50 a fight, She didn't mind if I won an $8 trophy, but but I never did. I just didn't turn pro, and I fought for 11 years, and it was.
Wait. In 11 years, you had 217 fights.
Yeah, that's a lot of fights.
that is a ton of fights.
But I went everywhere, and I did not get to go to the Olympics. I fought in the Olympic trials twice and went to the finals, and both times I lost. They say I lost to a guy that went on. He went to the Olympics and was the Olympic champion. But I can look back and say, boy, I wish I had done this. Wish I'd turned pro and done that. But I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today.
That's correct. And your granddaughter Holly
and making $30,000. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep. And your granddaughter Holly was
that's a joke. folks.
Yes, we got it. We were ignoring it. We were ignoring it because Derek gets all the money in this outfit.
There you go. There you go.
But your granddaughter Holly, she was a world champion.
She was a world champion.
And did she take your place in the Olympics, or is she?
She did not. She was the world champion, which is done a year before the Olympics.
Right.
She was favored to win in the
uneven parallel bars.
Uneven bars. Yeah.
Right.
And she hurt her back during the Olympic finals
trials
for her country. And it knocked her, and it wasn't a bad injury. It was just at exactly the wrong time to be out of a week,
right?
1 week, and they picked someone else, and that was a big blow to her.
Oh, sure.
But she had won the world championship, which is the same people.
Yep.
Year before they had that in Melbourne, Australia, and after she finished her international career, which was just after the Olympics, 1980 Olympics?
No, not the 1980 Olympics.
80, whatever it was. No, it's 88 or something.
Probably 96 or so.
96. There you go. That's about it right there. That's right. She wanted to go to school, so she went back. She could go to any college she wanted to on scholarship. She went to the University of Oklahoma. They had never won the national championship. She won everything, and they were the national champions twice while she was there. She even got she not only got a 4-year scholarship, she got a 5. She got got her master's degree there too, and that's where she met. Her husband was on the men's gymnastic team at the University of Oklahoma. Just in the last Olympics, he was still competing, and in the last Olympics in Rio, he got bronze in the pommel horse.
Great.
That is the
Yep.
meanest of it. No, the meanest is the rings, but he's real good. He was
Well,
good at that too.
they flew your flag proud in the Olympic game. Speaking of flying, you were one of the flying Elvises in Honeymoon in Vegas, weren't you?
I was the director, the director of the Flying Elvis Utah chapter.
Utah chapter. I want to segue back to Blazing Saddles a second, because when you mentioned Pryor, was there some thought that Mel Brooks had of casting Pryor instead of Cleavon Little? I think I read that he was thinking about putting Pryor in that part.
Oh, today, if you ask him today, what actor, which one of the two he would still rather have had, he'd still say Richard Pryor. But everybody in the whole wide world of sports wanted Richard to do the part, but except for two people, two head people at Warner's said no, we're not having him, because he hadn't done any movies before, any pictures before, but he had a wild and crazy life in Hollywood. They didn't know if he'd show up for a one night stand or.
Now, was it his connection made with Gene Wilder because of that movie? Was it that like he made some great movies with Wilder later on?
They had not worked together at that time. They had not done anything. I'm sure they knew each other, but because of his background,
the drugs.
His drugs. Yeah. No, thank you. They said no, we're not going to go for it. So Mel had to turn to someone else, and as we all know, it would have been a whole different character,
without a doubt.
That he would have.
I think
Richard would have pulled off. Who knows if it would have been better, worse? We don't know.
I think Cleavon had a kind of wild-eyed innocence that played real well in a part. You couldn't see him You couldn't see. I would have trouble seeing Richard playing that understated. Well, because Richard was always out front with everything he did.
That's right. He was way out shot. You had no. When he said a line, you know what he meant.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is, from what I read, now you can verify this because you would know and I wouldn't, of course, but he was also considering James Earl Jones in the part. Now, can you imagine James Earl Jones?
Right.
What a different movie that would have been.
That would have been crazy. And, I never met James Earl Jones until I refereed in California, Nevada, New Jersey, professional referees. And somewhere or other, James Earl Jones came to one of the fights that I was refereeing down at the Forum in Los Angeles. And someone introduced him to me and asked me if I would kind of sit with him while I was, because I wasn't refereeing that night. He asked me if I'd sit with him, and I sat with him. And I didn't know till then that Mel Brooks had the idea of using James Earl Jones as Black Bart. And he told me, he said, Mel Brooks talked to me about doing the part of Bart. I said, wow. And I did not know that. That would have been a whole different way.
Was that before or after James did Great White Hope? The movie Great White Hope? Didn't he star in a Great White? Yeah, he starred in Great White Hope.
Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson story. Yeah. Do you know whether that was before when you were sitting with him at the Forum, was that before or after he had done that
I
fight?
don't
That
know, but
movie.
I think probably it was after, or we would have talked about it. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. Interesting. So we met in Lexington, Kentucky at one of those celebrity golf tournaments that you talked about. You were actually a celebrity, and I was, a D-list guy who just was invited along for the ride. I think I was invited along because I brought artists with me, but artist Gilmore. But how long have you been going to Kentucky? You've been 36 years or so?
It's still going, of course. And they're now coming up this year will be 41 years. And oh, my phone is going off. How do I turn this off? Sit down. Anyway, I didn't play in the first tournament because I wasn't even playing golf then. Quit that. And you can't talk to they just don't listen. It's like in golf, you can talk to a slice, but you can't talk to a hook. And that phone is like a hook. I can't talk to it. But I didn't go the first year, but I went the next 35 straight years.
Yep.
And then I missed for a couple of years, and I went back for a couple, and now I'll be going back again this year. But that tournament.
That's the best tournament I've ever been to.
It's
Really?
the very best tournament of them all, and I played a lot of them.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
I met
It's the best.
I met so many good people over the years. Bubba being one of them, Jimmy Hampton being one of them, who just passed away.
And they loved you back there. I
Well.
guarantee you. They were always high on you.
See that, Derek?
I don't know. Yes, I'm sure that was the case.
He's a river to his people. He's a river.
Jim Richardson, Dougie Flynn, Johnny Bench, all of those people. We just made such great friends over the years. And the older I get, the more I need friends. Because
let me tell you, it's because of Johnny Bench that I quit going.
Is it?
Johnny and I had a falling out. I won't even. We won't talk about the falling out, but we had a falling out, and I didn't go for about 3 years. And he called me about 2 years ago, and he said, "I made a mistake." He said, "And I want you to come back. I want us to put this behind us. I'm apologizing. It was my fault, and I take full responsibility for it." Man, when somebody tells me that,
Yep.
Class act. Just class.
it's over.
Yep.
It is over, and
Class.
we're going to forget about what Johnny. And now, I've been a little bit sick for the last 9 months. Had a little cancer, but we whipped it. 10 months actually, and he calls me every month just to make sure that I'm doing fine.
Wow, that's
You know what? I want to tell you that I had a stroke in 2013, and Johnny called me every month to see how I was doing. Same exact story, same exact person, Johnny Bench.
Boy,
just a class
Yep.
act. Yeah, that's it. Tell
Yep.
me something about Kentucky and the tournament. I mean, besides meeting all these wonderful people, what made it the best tournament? What else was it? Just the way they ran the thing, or it was just
for me,
yeah.
you know what? I look back at it now, and the first about 3 years I was in the business, I really thought that I had just gotten lucky. I mean, that's just what I felt like. I had just gotten lucky, and they were going to find out about me one of these days.
By the way, that's the way I felt every year. That's the way I felt every year.
I think all actors have probably gone through that, but I had to learn from the bottom up. I went in to see my agent one day, Steve Stevens. I went in to see Steve, and I said, "Steve, and I hadn't worked in about 4 or 5 months. I said, Steve, I think they found out about me. I just got lucky, and I just and it's probably over. He said, listen, and at that time I'd probably done 5 or 6 movies and 40, 50 television shows and more commercials than that. He said, you in our business, you can get lucky and do 3, maybe 4 things just on luck with no skill. But after that, they're going to figure you out. He said, you've done all this work. You got talent. Don't worry about it. It's just the time you're going through here where the phone's not ringing. And within days, I got a phone call from Peter McDonovich, and he said, listen, I want you to do this little thing for me at Long Last Love with Burt Reynolds and, a bunch of people, Sybil and a bunch of people. And he said, and I'll pay you more than I paid you last time. I said, okay. and then it just took off again.
That's just.
You worked with Burt a couple times, didn't you?
Who?
Burt Reynolds?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and Burt became one of my great friends. Gosh. Well, I did Gator with him, and he called me about, I don't know, a year after we did Gator, and told me he had this little picture coming up called Smokey and the Bandit. And he wanted me to play Jackie Gleason's son, Junior, which was a great part, and I would have been pretty good.
You would have knocked it out of the park.
But I had already gotten on the line with doing another picture that didn't go anywhere. I could not balance both of them, and I couldn't get out of one of them, out of the first one. So I just had to pass on the thing. And what a great picture that would have been for me to be a part of.
Oh, yeah, you would have been terrific as Junior, no doubt about it.
Yep.
Well, it would have been a part that was right up my alley.
I had a chance to work with Gleason, of course. Gleason is, another icon.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that cast? Gleason, DeLuise,
Burt
Burt,
Reynolds,
Adrienne
Barbeau. That was a terrific class. Terrific cast.
Adrienne Barbeau, golly. Now you knew Jimmy Hampton, didn't you?
Yeah, sure. Jimmy just passed away. Yeah,
we just lost Jim
within the last 6 weeks ago. Oh,
yeah,
was it 2.5
and
weeks
he had moved back to Dallas.
Yes, I know. My wife Karen has kept in close touch with Mary, his wife.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And she's an actress also. Jimmy was a great guy. Jimmy was the bugler in F Troop, and Jimmy played caretaker in the original Longest Yard. God darn it, Bubba!
You taking action, Bubba? You taking bets?
Is it what?
Are you taking bets? Are you taking action over that phone? You're getting an awful lot of calls.
Trying to hang it up. Okay. Why did you tell me to leave that thing in somewhere else?
Well, but Jimmy was a good guy, and we have a lot of great people. Jim Huber passed away, and Satch Davidson passed away. A lot of major umpires. There's a lot of great players.
Right. You knew Satch. Wow.
Yep. Satch Davidson was the umpire behind the home plate when Carlton Fisk hit his home run. That was
stay fair.
And Satch Davidson was also behind the plate when Hank Aaron hit his 715th home run. A lot of good times were had by all that, and we're going to have a lot more also. In closing, Derek, do you have any questions you want to ask Bubba?
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Come on, Derek.
So the times that you, in the beginning, before you started your career, and you had that little negotiation with
Mel,
with Mel, was that you playing hardball, or were you just being a little bit?
Oh no,
not at all.
No, I didn't know how to play hardball. I had no idea about that. I was just telling it like it was,
Yeah.
And I never until that final time out there, and he said, "Okay," I never thought that it was going to go anywhere. I was just kind of running back and forth to Hollywood, and I'd stay 15 minutes and go down on the Hollywood Strip or on Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Strip and see a few things, and then I was out of there. I never thought it was going to work until he said, "Oh yeah, that's okay," And really, I made my deal was 3 weeks for $12,000, but I actually had 4.5 weeks on the picture, and with overtime, I made $25,000.
2 years work.
Well, Mel Brooks obviously had an eye for talent. I mean, that's what Frankie said to me a couple of times, that's what producers are. They can spot talent. And Brooks, wanted you so badly. Obviously he had that. You had the look. You had something that he wanted badly.
That is really beyond me, because usually I know now when somebody, a gifted actor, says, "No, I'm not going to do it. The money's not right, and goodbye," or the part's not right. But he just stayed after me, and I'm sure glad.
Boy, we're all glad he did. We're all glad he did.
Those 2 cows down in East Texas look real ugly to me now.
Billy, you have a final word?
Yeah, I do. I have another question that when I was doing the research to interview you, and you had a good relationship with Madeline Kahn, which makes this more verifiable. Obviously the character she played, Lily Von Stupp, was a takeoff on Lily Marlene Dietrich.
Sure.
And Mel Brooks supposedly wanted to see her legs. And she said,
right.
"Oh, you're one of those, huh?" Like he said, "No,
exactly
it's
right.
Because you're playing a character."
I wish that Madeline had written a book or something before we lost her, because I know she would have written a whole chapter about that happening. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Supposedly, he had told her. He said, "Look, no, you're doing a spoof on Marlene Dietrich, and she had dynamite legs, and you have to have good legs," and that was part of the deal.
Do you know? I did not know. We're getting deep into this stuff now. I did not know until about 15 years ago what the name Lily Von Stupp.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Stay right. Okay. If I had known what it was, I would have really laughed what it meant, but it did not register with me. I just thought it was just some kind of made-up name that was funny. Yeah. I went down to Houston to play golf with some guys, Jewish friends of mine, at a Jewish country club, and we were talking about Lily Von Stupp, and it came up that it meant something. And I said, "What's it mean?"
Well, if you're from New York, you know what it means, because
I don't know what it means.
Hey, so in closing, Bubba, I want to ask you a favor.
Yeah.
Can you do a promo for us for a Mick, a Mook, and a Mike podcast? Listen to us on where?
This is on top of the 30,000.
Yeah, you'll get extra for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take one of my checks. You take one of my checks.
What do you want me to say? Tell me what to say.
This is Bubba from Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
And I want you to listen to the podcast, A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
Wait a minute. What is it?
A Mick. A Mick, that's him.
A Mick, a Mook,
a Mook,
and a Mike.
And a Mike, that's Derek.
Boy, you got a Mick,
a Mook,
and a Mike.
Mook,
and a Mike.
What?
A mic. Microphone.
And a mic.
Right. You
had a Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
That's it. Yeah. Just say it just like that.
Okay.
Just be you, okay, brother. Just be you.
Okay, you just tell me when.
You just start with, this is Bubba from Blazing Saddles. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi there, folks. I'm Burton Gilliam, Bubba Gilliam, and I'm wild in Blazing Saddles. And I just want to invite everybody to tune in to a book. No, I messed that up. Here we go again. Hey, folks. I'm Burton Gilliam, Bubba, and I'm wild in Blazing Saddles. See, it's right there. And I want you to accept my invitation to tune in to a Mick, a Mook, and a Mike podcast, because it's gonna blow your hat off.
Thank you, Bubba.
You are the best. I hope to run into you sometime.
Now remember this, okay?
Yeah.
You cannot make a racehorse out of a jackass. But I'm trying.
You were terrific. Bubba, thank you so much. What a pleasure to meet you, pal.
Billy, Frank, thank you for having me. And Derek, you're the best, pal.
Pleasure. You were awesome.
Okay.
Pleasure.
Just great, Derek.
I look forward to seeing you in Lexington. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Bubba. Thank you,
Bye
pal.
now.
He was terrific.
Yep.
Absolutely terrific.
He's the best. He's the best.
You know, one of the things I had read was that Harvey Korman played Hedley Lamar, right? Of course, in Blazing Saddles. And he had told Mel Brooks, we're going to get sued for using the name Hedley Lamar, because Hedley Lamar, of course, was iconic actress of the 30s, but probably the most beautiful woman in that period in the movies. And he did. She sued.
And?
They settled out of court. But she did sue. And a lot of people don't realize this, and I guess unless you're a real movie aficionado, which I was, and I was a big Hedley Lamar fan. I mean, I loved Hedley Lamar. I thought she was not just gorgeous. She had invented
radar.
Exactly, sonar. But it turns out that what she invented was frequency hopping technology. So we wouldn't have Bluetooth right now had it not been for Hedley Lamar.
Right, and she didn't get credit for that. She sold it to the government, and the government sort of usurped her patents. But maybe within the last 5-10 years, the government has made restitution to her estate.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And obviously she was brilliant. She was married to an arms dealer, a munitions expert or something. That's how she got the frequency thing going on. I mean,
Yeah, that's a great story.
But she was a knockout.
Yeah.
I mean, absolute knockout.
Yep, she was. So this week in history.
Uh-huh. What kind of curveballs are you going to throw me now, Derek?
I'll give you the date. Was this week in history, of course, so you have the date. But it's 1954. That might be a clue because we've talked about this before. What do you think happened this week in 1954?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about the Eisenhower administration, so the big gambit 5 years earlier was when China went communist in 49. Mao Tse-tung, that was a blind bug. 54, I don't know.
I'll give you a hint. There are parallels with the COVID vaccine.
Oh, is this Jonas Salk?
Yes, it is. Good for you.
Jonas Salk polio, huh?
Yep. First, this week in history, 1954, the first mass trials of Jonas Salk's anti-polio vaccine began.
And that was a scourge. I mean, I of course, I was only 6 years old, but everybody was terrified of polio,
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely terrified. I mean, it was.
And they should have been.
And did he give it away for nothing?
Oh, sure.
He refused to charge for it.
Yes, he refused to charge for it.
Yeah, he could have been, of course, the equivalent of a billionaire today, but he
was a doctor.
He was a doctor. He was a real doctor.
He was a real doctor. He was a real doctor, not like Dr. Cut him open. Dr. I cut him open.
Dr. Rotten Socks. Yeah, he wasn't like Dr. Rotten. He was a real deal. But yeah, that was an amazing thing at 54. That was it saved the world. I mean,
it did save the world.
That was a terrible, terrible disease.
Yep. Our guest next week is Susan Egan, the Belle of Broadway, who created the role of Belle in Beauty of the Beast and starred in Cabaret and Thoroughly Modern Millie. She's a great talent, and she'll be a terrific guest.
Those are three huge plays. I mean, no doubt about it.
Yep.
So that's great. I tell you, I'm getting to meet some fascinating people thanks to you, pal.
Yep.
Every now and then I'll throw you a curveball. You can meet one of my friends.
I'm looking forward to meeting Pepe Lopez, who's going to be the
Pepe Castro.
Pepe Castro.
Pepe Castro. Pepe Magoo. We call him Pepe Magoo because of the Blues Magoos.
Blues Magoos. So I'm looking forward to meeting him, and then we'll have the week between Susan and Pepe. We're going to have Matthew Lawrence on. So
very cool.
You'll look forward to that interview. With that, Derek, do you have anything else?
I think that's it. We're good to go.
Well, should we talk about our new website or not?
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh, look at Billy on the...
And we didn't mention If These Lips Could Talk, available on amicamookanamike.net.
Isn't that a book co-written by two familiar faces, If These Lips Could Talk?
I know one of them. I know Billy O'Connor.
I know Frank Pace. That's my claim to fame. I know Frank Pace. I'm with him. I'm with this guy.
Yep. And then we have a new website up.
That's right.
A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
I like the way Bubba said it.
.com.
A Muck, a Mick, a Mook.
.com and a Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.net. Wow. It's up. It tells all about the exciting co-hosts, of which Billy is one of them. He's the exciting part.
I don't know about that, but we also have all the archives up on that website, which is really cool because I was going to ask you that Stephen Lang, of course, is making Avatar 2, 3, and 4. And when are they going to release Avatar 2? Do you have any idea?
I think the first one's going to be out in December of 2022. And in 2022, 2023, 2025, and 2026. Steven's going to get to look at himself at the current age he's at when he's 10 years older, and it'll be the original Avatar was out in 2011. It'll be able to look at him in 2026, and will not have aged a bit.
And of course, our audience can check the archives and see our interview with Steven. And there was one thing that really stuck out to me that because as a writer and as somebody who likes to read like yourself, when Stephen Lang said, "It reads good."
It reads good.
I love that. I love that line and the way he said it when he was interviewing us. He just said, "Yeah, I like that read. It reads good." And that really stuck with me. I don't know why, but it did.
So, with that, say goodnight, Billy.
Good night, Billy. Good night, Frank. Good night, Derek. Good night, everybody out there. And thanks again for tuning in. As always, we really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun here, and I hope you had half as much fun as we did.
We'll see you next week.